Hello, I'm going to go over timelines and do a little brainstorming today. So, one of the components of creating a pre-production package for your level design is the timeline. So, I'm not going to create a timeline based on the slime level assignment. I'm going to create my own, just so people don't copy exactly what I come up with, which tends to happen. So I'm going to come up with a level idea based on a 1980s movie called C.H.U.D, Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers. So if you haven't seen that clip, please check it out. You can check out C.H.U.D. I'll show you an image of the poster here in a minute. So C.H.U.D is basically, as I said, cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers that live in the sewers. They start coming out at night, attacking people, eating people. It's the typical zombie infestation thrown in with some radiation and some 80s goodness, bad soundtrack, bad acting. It's a wonderful movie. Check it out. So I'm going to start by brainstorming. I'm just going to work on one level. So I'm not going to go into the whole uh, arcing story of the entire game, but really the concept is avoid the chuds, which are like zombies. Third person action adventure, some platforming, some puzzles to solve. Uh, and that's the starting point pretty much. So I have to figure out what I want to do in this level, what the action is, how I want to go about it. So let's just start by brainstorming. And really, I like to brainstorm by just having a movie on, having music on, and just start the ideas flowing. So, make this bigger. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this window. This is really annoying. There we go. Zoom out, zoom in a little, get my brush. So, we start with C.H.U.D. Zombies, eat flesh. I'm just letting my subconscious flow. I definitely want it to be action oriented. I don't want guns, so we'll put no guns. I think you're going to have to be creative to destroy them or avoid them. So I want to be based on the environment more than combat and hordes of chuds. I'd like to have the chuds you basically avoiding them. So in the environment, using platforms to jump to, maybe zombies below you. Jumping from platform to platform, climbing ladders. The overall story for maybe my level would be to exit the level and not die. Not die. C.H.U.D with a curly Q haircut. So I'm going super simple. I don't want guns. Avoid the zombies. Somewhere in an urban, big city environment. Something like, 1970s New York City, 1980s before they cleaned it up. So that would be my starting point. So really all I want to do is avoid chuds and navigate the level. At some point I want to get a nice view of the path I've come from. So I'm going to say vista, view of player path. So maybe when I'm starting to get to the end, maybe I climb to the top of a building, I get to look down and see all the chuds wandering down below, get to see where I've come from, which is always cool to do. And I want something cataclysmic to happen, maybe a cataclysmic, is that correct? Wow, I'm not sure if I'm spelling that right. Cataclysmic event that changes the level and changes the player path. So this is how I brainstorm. Doesn't matter if it's clean. After I come up with my basic idea, then I start typing things out and cleaning it up. I try and keep my flow of ideas just rolling along here. So that's what I'm going to do. And now I'm going to create a timeline just based on this. So if I have this, I'm going to scribble a quick timeline. Probably start. I know the finish is exit the level. I said I wanted some kind of cataclysmic event, so level changing event. Level changing event. And I also wanted to reveal CH.U.Ds, have a vista view. So up here I want to, I'll just put vista view. A vista view is like a postcard view. You look down and see the beautiful mountains in the distance and the lake, or the cityscape with the setting sun, some beautiful view that your player path takes you along. At this point, we probably want to encounter some other characters, maybe some friends to help you out, maybe a stranded family. Stranded family sounds good. Stranded family. Navigate. C.H.U.D. Intro. Maybe we get to see the C.H.U.D. come at you for the first time. More platforming and navigation. Platforming. Alright, so this is the start of my timeline. The most important parts are, and how do I want it to start? Do I want to start with an IGC or just go right into the level? So I could have an IGC here that's a fly-through and show the player path. How about IGC player path? And then gameplay is going to start here when I start navigating. So that's really important to do. We want to make sure we know where there's IGCs, when there's gameplay, if there's an in-game event. You want to make sure you know when on your timeline the player is in control and controlling the character and playing the game. IGCs obviously are not. The Vista View is still gameplay. The level changing event is a big event, so you can mark that in some special way with a color, some interesting graphic on your timeline. Stranded family I really haven't defined as to is this in-game or is this a cutscene? Is this some interactive Mass Effect type thing with a question and answer session? The C.H.U.D. intro, do we want it in-game or do we want to actually cut away from the in-game and have an IGC? Now, well, this is the start of my timeline. This is my level. This is basically what I want to do in my level. And I thought of my setting. I want it to be 1970s grimy. Grimy? Is that how you spell it? Grimy New York City. Probably in a back alley. Warehouses. Time of day, I think it's going to be dusk. It's going to be getting dark, getting creepy out there. I don't know why I put dots there, but dusk. So really, that's my main components. That's really what I need to figure out right now. Alright, so I'm going to construct my timeline in Illustrator, but it's much easier to scribble in Photoshop like this. So I'm going to move Photoshop over here and keep it for reference, so I know what my basic idea is. And let's go to Illustrator. Alright, so I get my basic sheet set up here. Which it's not selecting this, which is odd. Something locked here. What's going on? There we go. Something was locked. Alright, so this is the basic size setup of my timeline. And how I want it to work is I've constructed a few timelines before, so I kind of know how I want it to look and act. These are my basic shapes. This is a line to designate, points on the timeline. going to use a bar like this for my timeline and color it in. It seems to work better to communicate details and what type of gameplay or IGC is going on. I'm going to have bubbles, shapes to describe what's happening. Really only need a couple. And then obviously I'll have text. So let's start with the bar, which is nothing more than a rectangle tool. And first and foremost, let's label it. This is C.H.U.D. C.H.U.D. Font bigger. And let's go down and make another text. And I'm going to name my level, excuse me. I'm going to name my level loading dock alley. Oh, I think I'm on the wrong thing. Loading dock alley. I'll make that a little bit smaller so C.H.U.D is bigger. Cut that down to 24. Alright, that's a good starting point. And now let's start creating our timeline. And let's make sure we use our scribbles from Photoshop and brainstorming as our reference. So we go to rectangle tool. And this is basically going to be my timeline bar. And I don't want it to be all black. I think I'm going to go gray. And the outline I think is going to be none or white. Just going to leave it none for now. Let's go to my basic line tool. And I'm going to create a starting point here. And right now it's not drawing anything. So let's change it to a solid black. Make it thicker, which actually is at 0 right now. We'll put it at 3. And let's go with the round elliptical tool. I know I don't want black. Let's make it. I'm going to start with an IGC. So I'm going to make the IGC a green, which I've done in the past. So something a little more pleasant than that, but light, not too saturated. That looks pretty good. I don't want it to be that thick of a border. We'll do it to 1. Put it up here. Get my text tool. IGC. Or actually, is it in the game or is it a cutscene coming in like a pre-rendered? I'm going to say it's an IGC. So go here. Show the player trapped in alley. Whoa, what's going on there? Oh, I see. Let's do that again. And player path to exit. Let's make my font smaller. Whoa. So I am using a more. This is not working. Delete, delete, delete. We are going to put our text separate. IGC. Show player start point and player path to exit. Much better. Locked inside that shape doesn't work so well. A little bit better spacing. Make it slightly bigger. Looks pretty good. Hey, what happened to my shape? Alright. So I'm going to use this color to designate IGC. Every time I see this color, I know that. Bring it to the front. No, Adaware, I don't want you. Bring to the front. There we go. Seems like a decent size to read. See the green, I know it's an IGC. Alright, so that's, I'm going to do an IGC, and then the next thing I'm going to do is have, duplicate my line, bring it down here, rotate it a little bit. This is my first in-game gameplay. So we start with an IGC, and then we go to gameplay. And I'm going to have gameplay be elliptical tool, a little lighter gray, not that thick of a stroke. Grab my text, change this to be gameplay, start in alley. Sounds super basic, but good enough. Bring to front. A little bit bigger so we can see that Y. Alright, and I want to put start. I think I'm going to change the color of start because I really want to know where I'm starting this. I'm going to make it bold. Green. Let's change this. Whoa. Let's change this to regular or bold. Alright, start an alley. Very clear. I come in with an IGC. Start my gameplay in my alley. How am I going to end this level? So start and end are the key points. So I'm probably going to exit on the top of a building. So let's just duplicate this over. I'm not sure if this should be on top or bottom. I may have to adjust this. Forgot my text. That's okay. Ugh, why aren't you letting me do this? Come on. Regular. Black, please. Make my oval a little bit bigger. And let's make finish red, not. Alright, so we've. Oh, I dragged this whole thing over. How annoying. So now I know my start and my finish. Very, very clear. Start in the alley. Finish by entering the stairwell, which does not say on top of a building, but I probably should put that in there. Do I want a cutscene after? Do I want to show some type of a cutscene, which I'm going to say yes. Let's put it over here. IGC. Show player. Enter into building with comrades. Let's say he meets up with some fellow survivors of the C.H.U.D invasion. Let's bring over a line. I'm going to put it at the very end so we know it's the last thing that happens. Gameplay is finished here. This is an IGC exiting the level. Alright, we got our beginning, we got our end. We know there's an IGC at the bookends of the entire level mission, which is good. So let's start putting in gameplay and details in here. We talked about, if we go back to my notes from Photoshop, we talked about platforming, introing a C.H.U.D, navigation, a stranded family, and a level changing event. So I'm going to create the level changing event, and I'm going to say it happens here. And the reason it happens here is it leads to you being able to, this level changing event, whether it's a collapsing wall, going to say, actually no, I'm going to say it's an in-game event, meaning you see it happen as you're running through the level. Building collapse. So part of a building collapses, which allows you to get up to this final building and exit. So I'm going to change the color of this so it looks very unique. Like this is completely something interesting going on in the world we got to pay attention to. So we'll make it blue. Make the text white. Alright, that looks good. So I know I want this to happen about 3/4 of the way, halfway through the level. Then we navigate up the building to get out. Talked about meeting a family, so let's put the family in here. But first, from the alley, I'm going to navigate from the alley into a nearby building, which allows us to meet the family. So I should designate what kind of gameplay is happening here. I'm going to say it's like simple platforming, simple navigation. So this is where we get to see the level, see the threat of the C.H.U.Ds. Not as worried about getting eaten by C.H.U.Ds at this point. So gameplay, simple navigation, and platforming into building. And the problem with reusing text is you start having to change it over and over again. But that's okay, it's all part of the game. Make this bubble a little bit bigger. It's good, and I think at this point when I meet the family, it's probably going to be an IGC. Let's meet the family. Meet the stranded family. IGC. Not happening during gameplay. Not an in-game event like this. In-game event means I'm walking through the level and I'm experiencing it while still in, I don't know about full control of my player, but at least partial control. So simple navigation, meet the family without the S. Oops, no, I do want the S. The S there. So at this point, you probably have to navigate out of the building, across the alley. This is where you get meet the C.H.U.Ds. So let's go back to gameplay. And now it's starting to get a little bit more messy, my timeline. Navigate cross alley, avoid C.H.U.Ds. C.H.U.Ds. Bad boy. This goes here. Navigate across the alley. Met the family. You're navigating across the alley. Get across the alley. I didn't intro the C.H.U.Ds yet. Might be somewhere in here. Might be another little scary moment with a C.H.U.D. Navigate across. Before the cataclysmic event, is there something else that happens? Let's put another little gameplay pocket here. And say we introduce a way to combat C.H.U.Ds, but without guns or weapons. I'm not sure what yet. So gameplay, fend off, defend, fight off C.H.U.Ds, but I don't know how yet. So for now, I'm just going to say that. My gameplay pocket, which is a term I like to use, it's a pocket of very specific gameplay. This is simple navigation and platforming. Oh man, I did it again. Illustrator, you're driving me crazy. There we go. Navigate across. Now you're avoiding a threat. There's probably platforming, running, jumping involved. And then this is fight off C.H.U.Ds. In loading dock. Alright, so now you're in a loading dock area. You go across the alley, you get to the loading dock. So somewhere after this is where the building collapses. Bricks falling, fire escapes crumbling, and at that point that allows you access to exits. So now, after the collapse, I'm going to go back to gameplay. I'm going to put it down here. It's getting a little messy, but still pretty clear. Even if I have to stretch it out like this, it'll work for the short term. So now, navigate up to top of collapsed building. All right. So now the navigation's getting vertical. It's getting more challenging. Maybe there's C.H.U.Ds up there on the building, which I can break out in more detail in my second version of my timeline. But for my first version of my timeline, this is great. This really gives me the end goal finished by entering the stairwell, which is gameplay on top of building, which really needs to be probably put in there. It's a little bit bigger. This guy could be a little bit bigger. IGCs are bookends. They're probably in-game cutscenes. I don't need some. Probably don't need a over-the-top pre-rendered cutscene. We're meeting the stranded family. I'm not sure what gameplay will happen here, but overall, this is really clear what's going to happen, including a big in-game event. It works. It's easy to read. If we were to break it out a little bit more, I could do something like this. I could add colors to, let's say, all the gray is gameplay. And then we have, actually what would be easier is just duplicate. This guy. Make him the same color as the IGC. Use my arrows just to move him over. Ta-da! Oh, that didn't work. Okay. I am failing on my Illustrator. Another IGC here. And I really need to turn off all these knobs and handles. But the point of this tutorial is not to learn Illustrator and its almighty details, but to make a good timeline. And since I just updated to the latest Illustrator, there's a lot of stuff in here that's on by default that I'm not used to, which is okay. Kabam! And I need another one of these guys. Really what I should put here is, I should really designate where the gameplay ends. I'm going to put a red mark there, then I'm going to go back here. And put the start of the gameplay. And really I need to butt this up because the gameplay is going to start right after the IGC. So let's make that dark green. Matches the text. And this really needs to match that. Don't want to get too much confusion. That's connected to that, to that, to that, that to that. Perfect. And this is supposed to end and go right to IGC. So these should all slide over to here. Ta-da! So now you can see very clearly the start, the end. It's easy to read. The text is straightforward. You don't want a whole lot of description in these. And this I would call a basic rough timeline that you could use for development to get by week to week. If you want to polish one up for a portfolio, you probably want to beautify it a little bit. It doesn't have to be Illustrator quality, as in you don't have to paint it and be an unbelievable graphic designer to make a nice looking one. I think I'll add a border up here. I'll put it to the, what's actually what I'll do. Select both of these and put them to the back. Change the color of this one. Should I do, I don't want to change that color there. Let's change it here. Kind of a brown color. Not very pretty. Maybe we'll desaturate that. Alright, kind of boring, but there we go. Good starting timeline. And don't forget to put your name, for goodness sakes. Markg Game Design. Ta-da! That is your starting timeline. This would work for production and development. It would actually be decent for a portfolio as well if you're trying to show a whole pre-production package for your level. Wouldn't hurt for my assignments to also show me your brainstorming and how you're thinking. Don't forget to keep this stuff. This is really valuable to remember some ideas you may forget later and you want to come back and draw over this. I like scribbling on top of scribbles forever. It helps me think and come up with new ideas. But yeah, that is your timeline. If you want to make a more polished version, you can go much farther than this. This is an excellent production quality. Like I said, development. Here's one I made before. It has a little more. It's about the same, actually. It is the same. Is it prettier? Same. Kind of like this one better. I don't really like the yellows. And here's my super pretty one. So I took it one step farther, and ta-da! Made a nicer font. Put a background image of the C.H.U.D poster, and then I made these. I put these step to step. One, intro IGC, and actually this is a good idea too, to write down things in numerical order or alphabetical order, kind of like you do in your popcorn trail for your level, which you'll be learning about soon enough, as well as your walkthrough. You want to, in your walkthrough, label things 1, 2, 3, 4, so people know exactly the order they have to. You can't go from 4 to 6. You have to go from 4, trigger the IGC at 5, then go to 6 and do more gameplay. Then the cataclysmic moment happens after you do this gameplay. So if you have a section in here that's not sequential, you can do something like 4, A, B, C, D, or you could just have 4 with bullet points. And you could have a series of white blocks all in a sequence here, stating that any of these can be done in any order, and if you get 2 of them done or 5 of them done, then you go to 5. You can state that right here and make it real simple. But the only thing I did with this one is I added a background image, faded it, and I just made the text look a little bit nicer. I made the timeline thicker. So that's a nicer portfolio piece. And here's the C.H.U.D poster, which I found online. Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. They're not staying down there anymore. C.H.U.D, C.H.U.D, C.H.U.D. Alright, we will now go and watch C.H.U.D, C.H.U.D, C.H.U.D.